evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Azam Khan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Residents of Sham Shui Po get emotional support after 3 young sisters are killed. The government seeks to ban a protest song at the center of a string of national anthem controversies. And Russia and Ukraine point fingers at each other for a dam burst, which forces a massive evacuation. Police have laid a holding charge on a woman accused of killing her 3 young daughters in their subdivided flat in Sham Shui Po. She will appear in court tomorrow in connection with the triple murder, which occurred yesterday. Macy Mock reports.
A 29-year-old mother who was detained overnight after allegedly murdering her 3 young children was taken to the Caritas Medical Center for a checkup. Her estranged husband went to the Kwaichung mortuary this morning to identify his 3 daughters aged 2 to 5. Chief Executive John Lee said he was heartbroken by the triple murder, which police described as a very serious case of domestic violence.
No matter what happens in a family, violence is not the solution. It will only exacerbate the problem. Every child has a right to live. No one should take away their lives. We must protect our children.
Lee said his administration and non-governmental organizations will provide support to those in need, including people from the ethnic minorities. The subdivided flats in Sham Shui Po, where the children had lived with their mother, remain sealed off. Si Lai Shan, Deputy Director of the Society for Community Organization, SOCO, said the ethnic minority family had moved in the second half of last year.
We did not have a chance to approach the family, but last night one of our residents, they said they remind her if she has any problem, she can approach us, but it's a pity she did not approach us.
Zi urged more government help for ethnic minority families in need.
But some of the EM we know they don't speak really good Chinese or even also don't know much about English. So I think if for EM service, we should have more EM worker. It's better for them to communicate. And besides, they will believe their own people more.
SOCO posted a notice inside the building telling residents where they can get help for trauma. The Social Welfare Department set up a booth outside Sham Shui Po Station to distribute pamphlets on dealing with emotional distress. Macy Mock, HKIBC.
The chief executive has defended the police for detaining 23 people accused of breaching the peace last weekend during the anniversary of June 4th.
Why the government did not specify beforehand about these consequences? Because there was really nothing specific from you or other officials to warn people about what would happen on their actions.
I think the government position is very clear. Anybody must act in accordance with the law, and they are responsible for what they do. And the law is already very well clearly stated in Hong Kong. In all public events, then of course the law governing these events includes the Public Order Ordinance and also laws that govern activities that may relate to incitement, disorderly conduct, etc., etc.
The Security Bureau, meanwhile, denounced the United Nations Human Rights Office and the Hong Kong Journalists Association for criticizing the police action, which included officers taking away veteran journalist Mak Yin Ting. The Bureau said the 2 groups had made unfounded remarks, adding that any attempt to slander the city's rule of law will be futile. The government is seeking a court order to ban anyone from playing the protest song Glory to Hong Kong. It noted that the song, which has been widely circulated since 2019, has lyrics that constitute secession the government pointed to a series of blunders when the protest tune was played at international sporting events, instead of the correct national anthem, March of the Volunteers. An injunction will ban anyone with a seditious intention or trying to incite secession from handling the song in any way, including broadcasting, performing, selling, disseminating, or reproducing it. Some civil service unions say they are disappointed with the pay rise proposed by the Executive Council. Staff representatives will meet the head of the civil service before this year's increment is approved. Macy Mock reports.
The Executive Council has proposed a 4.65% pay rise for junior civil servants, slightly higher than the raise suggested by the Pay Trend Survey Committee last month. Councillors agreed with the committee to give middle-ranking government workers an extra 4.65% and 2.87% for senior staff. The Civil Service Secretary pointed out that the increases are higher than last year's inflation rate of 1.9%.
Every year, the CE Council takes into consideration the change in cost of living. Last year, it has been taken into account. This year, again, the new figures has been taken into account.
Yeung noted that Hong Kong's economy still faces external challenges and that the government is in deficit. She will discuss the proposal pay rise with staff representatives tomorrow before the Executive Council makes a final decision. But some unions have already expressed disappointment. Li Kuai-yin, president of the Chinese Civil Servants Association, accused the government of missing the chance to boost staff morale. Her association wants a flat rate increase of 5.1%. The Senior Government Officers Association also expressed disappointment, saying the government has neglected the contribution of its members. However, a group representing civil servants earning around $18,000 or less welcomed the proposal. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
2 people have been injured in a crash between a bus and a lorry carrying a crane at the Tai Lam Tunnel. The accident happened at 11 a.m. when a double-decker bus was traveling towards Tsuen Wan. It was unable to brake in time and crashed into the back of the slow-moving lorry. Firefighters used thick cloth to cover the shattered windscreen of the bus as they rescued the driver, who was trapped inside his cab. The driver and a passenger, who was also injured, were taken to hospital. Some Kowloon-bound lanes of the Tai Lam Tunnel were closed temporarily to remove the vehicles. Overseas, Russia and Ukraine have blamed each other for a dam burst, which has sent thousands of people scurrying for safety. The dam at a hydroelectric plant in the Russian-occupied town of Nova Kakhovka in Ukraine was breached overnight, and water has been gushing out. Russia says the town is submerged, and it blames Ukraine for sabotaging the dam. Kyiv, in turn, accused Moscow of blowing up the plant. Ukraine says 80 towns and villages could be affected by the flooding. People in the affected areas are being evacuated. The dam supplies water to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station, and there are fears that a lack of cooling water could disrupt the plant's emergency diesel generators. Australians are trying to come to terms with what has been described as one of the greatest miscarriages of justice. Kathleen Folbig, who spent 20 years in jail after being convicted of killing her 4 children, was freed when scientists suggested that they might have died from natural causes.
I'm extremely humbled and extremely grateful for being pardoned and released from prison. And for the last 20 years I have been in prison. I have forever and will always think of my children, grieve for my children, and have missed them and love them terribly. Today is a victory for science and especially truth.
Folbig, now 55, was freed from a New South Wales prison. She has always denied killing her 2 sons and 2 daughters when they were aged between 19 days and 19 months during a 10-year period starting in 1989. Prosecutors said new research on gene mutations had changed their views on how the children died. Folbig has to appeal against her convictions, and if successful, she can sue the government for millions of dollars. Local stocks closed flat today in volatile trading over concerns of a faltering post-COVID recovery on the mainland. The Hang Seng Index surged more than 200 points early on before closing marginally lower. With Beijing expected to go to the aid of the alien property sector again, developer Longfor Group jumped 7.8%. Country Garden was up 6.2%. Tencent lost 2% as the tech giant continued to buy back its own stock. Power tool manufacturer Tektronic Industries plunged 4.7% on concerns of the firm's financial stability. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed down 9 points. Top 10 active stocks, Meituan was up 20 cents, Tencent was down $7. BYD was up $3.80, Ping An up 45 cents. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.38, Canadian dollar at 5.84. And over in the UK markets, the London FTSE is currently down 13 points. After 7 years in the works, one of tech giant Apple's most ambitious hardware products is ready to hit the market. But the Vision Pro headset comes with a hefty price tag and will initially be available only in the United States. Sachin Kafi reports.
Introducing Apple's new Vision Pro, unveiled by Chief Executive Tim Cook, is the first of its kind mixed reality headset which blends the virtual and real worlds. Unlike other similar devices, the new gadget displays the eyes of its users on the outside, so they are not isolated from people around them. The user sees them and they can see the user. The design, which resembles ski goggles, is equipped with 12 cameras, 6 microphones, and relies on eye and hand movements to function. It can also be controlled with voice commands. But with a price tag of $3,499 and with a 2-hour battery life, watching movies or taking pictures becomes very expensive.
It's definitely not cheap. This is a standalone device with its own compute power. So I think if you look at the return on investment that way, it's becoming easier to justify the $3.5 grand.
There is concern as to how the device could function for people who need reading glasses. The headset will be available in the United States early next year, and other markets will have to wait. Sachin Katwe, HKIBC.
On to the weather now. Cloudy with rain, occasionally heavy, and some thunderstorms. Temperatures will range between 27 and 31 degrees. Similar conditions in the following days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Azam Khan. Good night.